My name is Claire Alcott. I was the neighbor who kept to herself until they gave me a reason not to. The neighborhood looked perfect. That was the whole point. Matching mailboxes, approved hedgerow heights, a color palette with a name, Coastal Harmony. I remember thinking, these people really care about the community. I was half right. They cared about control, and they dressed it up beautifully. The HOA board had 4 members. Gerald chaired it. He had the walk of someone who had never once been told no. Then there was Diane, his shadow, his echo in better earrings. 2 others who voted whichever way Gerald learned. A perfect little machine. I bought the house in March. Small place, corner lot, century-old bones. My grandmother had a door exactly like the one I painted. Dusty rose, almost pink, soft as a memory. I thought it was beautiful. Have you ever loved something simple and watched someone make it a problem? That's where this starts. The first letter arrived in April. Your front door is in violation of Section 4.2b of the CC&R's non-approved exterior color. Please correct it within 30 days. I read it 3 times. Then I looked at my door. Then I looked down the street at a garage painted the same shade of terracotta that had been there for years. The machine had a target now, and that target was me. I painted the door beige. I hated it, but I painted it. I thought compliance buys peace. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, another letter. Your garden border stones exceed the approved height of 4 inches. My stones were 4.5. 4.5. Then a third letter. My motion sensor porch light was facing communal airspace. That wasn't even a real rule. I read the CC and R's 3 times. Found nothing. When I called to ask, Gerald answered himself. He said, and I quote, "The board interprets the spirit of the document." I went to the next meeting. 47 residents. I raised my hand. I was polite. I had notes. Gerald smiled at me, the way people smile when they've already decided. The answer is no. The fine stood $500 for a pink door that no longer existed. Have you ever been punished for something you already fixed? That's not about rules. That's about power. I started paying attention. Not to Gerald, to the pattern. New residents, corner lots, anyone without deep neighborhood roots. That's who got letters. The Garcias on Birch, fined for a trampoline 3 months after moving in. The woman on Elm, fined for wind chimes. Meanwhile, Gerald's driveway had a crack the length of a school bus. Nothing. Diane's fence leaned at a visible angle. Nothing. Some people don't enforce rules. They use rules to enforce hierarchy. I talked to a neighbor, quiet woman. Name was Roberta. She'd lived on this street for 19 years. She said, "Honey, you're new, and your lot is a corner." That's all they needed. I asked what she meant. She lowered her voice. "Your property records. You might want to read the original deed carefully." She said it once. Then she went inside. I am a careful person. I work in records management. I know how to look at old documents, the way most people look at wallpaper. I requested the original property deed from the county. 1921. Handwritten sections, stamped in fading ink. On page 4, buried in addendum language, the purchaser and all subsequent holders of the parcel at my address shall retain permanent easement access across the northern boundary of the adjacent common land, being no less than 12 feet in width, for purposes of ingress and egress in perpetuity. I read that twice, then a third time. Then I looked up what northern boundary of the adjacent common land meant in 1921. It meant the park, the HOA's prized community park, the centerpiece of coastal harmony. The deed predated the HOA by 60 years. Easements in perpetuity cannot be overridden by a homeowners association. That is not a technicality. That is property law. I called a real estate attorney. She read the document. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "This is valid. You have permanent legal access across that park land, and it's 12 feet wide." 12 feet wide. The width of a standard driveway. I didn't call Gerald. I didn't post online. I documented everything. Every fine letter. Every meeting minute. Every unanswered appeal. I built a paper trail. The way you build anything meant to last. Quietly, carefully, with patience. My attorney sent a formal notice to the HOA board and the neighborhood's legal counsel. She cited the easement. She cited the deed. She cited the recorded county records. She noted, any obstruction of this easement, including the HOA's park signage, the newly installed decorative fencing, and the irrigation system, was technically an encroachment on legally protected access land. She also noted that the easement created a pathway directly to my property, that I had the right to use it, that I intended to use it, and that any interference would constitute a legal violation. Gerald called me directly. For the first time, he didn't smile through his words. He said the board would need to review the situation. I said, take your time. My attorney will be in touch about the fine reimbursement as well. Have you ever watched someone's certainty leave their voice in real time? It sounds like silence with an audience. The neighborhood forum went quiet for 2 days. Then it exploded. Someone had posted the easement document. I still don't know who. My guess is Roberta. Residents who had been fined for years started asking questions about Gerald's interpretation powers, about where fine money had gone, about why certain properties were never cited. A resident requested the last 5 years of HOA financials. The board was delayed, then delayed again. The county HOA oversight office received a formal complaint. 3 complaints, then 11. Gerald resigned from the board in a letter that described himself as underappreciated. Diane followed. The remaining 2 members called an emergency meeting. 47 residents attended. 43 voted to restructure the enforcement process. The park fencing came down. My easement access was formally acknowledged in updated HOA records. The $500 fine was refunded. With a letter, I repainted my door. Dusty rose, exactly as I'd wanted. It took me a while to stop waiting for another letter. That's the part people don't talk about. The hypervigilance. Checking the mailbox like it might hurt you. But Roberta brought me tomatoes from her garden in July. She looked at my door and said, "That's a good color." I think that's the closest she'd ever come to telling me she was rooting for me all along. The new board has 3 new members. They communicate by email. They hold open meetings. They published a clear and consistent enforcement policy. Not perfect, but functional and fair. I've learned this: a community is only as healthy as its least powerful members' experience. If the rules protect only those who write them, they aren't rules. They're weapons with paperwork. I didn't win because I was clever. I won because I read what other people assumed wasn't worth reading. Power hates documentation. Power hates patience. Power especially hates someone who has done their homework and isn't afraid to show their work. Gerald thought I was new. I was. But new doesn't mean uninformed. And quiet doesn't mean unprepared. Being underestimated is only a disadvantage if you believe them. Some people pick targets based on who they think won't push back. Read your deeds. Read your leases. Read your contracts. The protection you need is often already in writing, waiting for someone to care enough to find it. If you've ever been targeted by someone who mistook your patience for weakness, tell me below. Someone scrolling this right now needs to know they're not alone in that room. The door doesn't have to match their vision. It just has to be yours.